every time we fall for the trap of perfection, going for perfection, we can ensure that we will fail. And I mean, so perfection as a concept does not exist because there is no such thing as now. You will look at examples of how perfection is starting to exist. These days, there is AI building content for us. It's literally creating people out of thin air, putting them and making them advertise. Somehow, when we look at these people, since they have no flaws and since there is nothing wrong with them, how they look wrong? Think about them. Instead, it makes you think God, and so much of our aiming perfection with in the way that we in the way that we create. And this is kind of an example that helps us see so clearly that not only is perfection not possible, not real, but it is so unnecessary because it actually takes away from the beauty of reality. So every time there was this account I was watching on Instagram, and it clearly looked AI. It had very scandalous content in the way that you meet somebody somewhere and you catch them, or you have a strange conversation with two people who you met for the first time. There's no way that conversation could have happened. Why? Because they fun. And the more you look at these people, you automatically can see perfectly symmetrical faces, or perfectly symmetrical body, and realize it's AI. And suddenly you're not interested. It's so strange. All our lives we started thinking and we started believing that if only I could look perfect, or if only I could create something perfect, if only my work could be perfect. Now that we can see the implications of perfection, I don't like it. That so much. There's nothing appealing about this woman who is perfect in every way. There's nothing appealing about this man who is perfect in every way. This perfectly, let's say, a paragraph has no emotion behind it, or the moment you see something built very nicely, kind of stop feeling to I don't know what it is. And on the other side, people who are making content and people who are, sharing their ideas in such simple ways, but authentic ways and honest ways, they are doing so extremely well. And that is such a good case study for us to see that authenticity is the one that works better in the long run and never perfection. So, all of us who have been kind of brought into the trap of for going for perfection or creating perfection or aiming for perfection now can see live how badly it works out when things are perfect, right? And there is even a Japanese tradition, I think it's called kintsugi, where they value things that have flaws and they fill those flaws or fill those cracks in, let's say, a vessel with gold because they think that the flaws are what makes a product or an item more valuable. And it's visible more and more these days. The people who are speaking from their heart, creating content, and the people who are just chasing virality is somehow not working. And people who are chasing algorithms, people who are chasing content which will should look like appeal to a lot of people is not appealing. But at the same time, a lady who is 70 years old, who has just a camera in front of her face, her phone, and she's able to speak her truth and the vision that she has lived in. I'm not talking about myself right now. So this lady is able to get 1 million followers on Instagram, and it's so nice to see, right? So, what does it teach us? It teaches us that perfection is not necessary, and not only is it not necessary, it's dangerous. Because when things look extremely perfect, they start to lose their appeal. And flaws and our effort, our authenticity, our genuineness, honesty is what makes us truly unique and valuable. If you think yourself, if you think of yourself as a product, if you have a product that is in the market, if you think of your creation, your creativity, your art as a product, or if you think of your service as a product, whatever you are working on, let go of the trap of perfection. It does not exist. And if it exists, it's not very appealing. The moment we decide, I used to do this a lot. The moment I used to decide that it is not ready because it's not perfect yet, I would immediately set myself up for failure, because I would just, I know that perfection cannot exist. I knew that always, right? But I still kept on hoping that it'll get better, and it's not ready. But maybe it was an excuse I was making all along before working on something. It's not ready, it's not perfect. I remember when I was a child, I used to write and I used to paint, I used to draw, I used to do a lot of things, and then I used to tear those papers into tiny little bits because I used to think it's not perfect yet. And imagine how long that's been going on. And it's just setting up yourself for sadness, setting yourself up for heartbreak. That is the word I was looking for. Why do that to ourselves when we know that it is our imperfections that make us beautiful? It is our imperfections in what we make that makes us beautiful. Most people will look at something, like, let's say, if we talk about a food item, most people will see an no very unpolished packaging and they will think, oh, maybe it's homemade, and they will value it more. Somebody will see perfectly made food with perfectly polished packaging and they will feel it looks like it's been made in a factory, or it's maybe probably got preservatives. Not true for everything, obviously, because the moment our businesses start to grow, our packaging improves and our ways of doing work improve. So perfection is not possible, but we can get close with, time and with effort and with more investment and resources. But at the same time, for most things, it's true that things that look shiny on the surface are not usually trusted. Fruits that look very shiny on the surface, almost perfect, are not trusted. So when we already know that things need to have flaws in order to be valuable, why do we keep chasing perfection? Is it because of unrealistic standards that we have set for ourselves? Or is it because we are scared of actually taking the first step? Could be one out of the two, right? And sometimes both. We are usually riddled with our own issues from maybe our childhood, where we kept on, like me, maybe rejecting ourselves over and over again. Maybe as a child, we were not given all the credit that we deserved. Maybe whenever we did well, we were supported, but whenever we did badly, we were reprimanded. So when we were only seen when we made mistakes, we tried to be seen less and less. We tried to not make mistakes, and not trying to make mistakes led to a place where we started chasing perfection, because we could not make mistakes, because we needed to be liked and accepted and loved for who we were. And who we were was less because we were not perfect yet. So now AI actually is showing us very clearly that perfection is dull, it's boring, it's not needed, it's not necessary, and it will never really replace people in at least the creative side of things. So, whenever emotion is concerned, whenever, I don't think anything can replace people wherever, since it cannot create authenticity, and authenticity is what sells. It will never be able to truly replace people, because you cannot manufacture authenticity, because the moment you try to manufacture authenticity, you lose it. So that is the funny and the great part about being honest about yourself. So this is a moment in the history of time where we are truly blessed to allow our authentic selves to come out and realize that we were always enough. We were always loved. There was no such thing as perfection that was required from us. We were always worthy. We were always accepted. We always had more than enough. So the moment we start choosing ourselves, we start changing our reality.